Well, Kim and I have decided to both wear maroon today for unknown reasons. We we
Tis the
coordinated.
season.
Yeah, it's kind of sort of Christmassy, I guess, sort of.
Yeah,
I mean, is this? I think of like a bright red as like a Christmas color, but I guess this still works. I don't know because I think of like
yeah.
poinsettias and all that kind of stuff, but I don't know. This
It
works.
can be maroon also,
Although I
okay?
do not have rhinestones. That's what you. Isn't that what you said you got? Yeah.
Yes.
Um, so we've watched all I think these are the only 3 versions of Black
I hope
Christmas,
so.
I think. So we watched Black Christmas 1974,
Yep,
and then
1974.
2006 and
Mhm,
2019, right?
mhm,
I think
mhm.
you and I have different takes on which one is our favorite. We'll
Yes,
talk about
I
that,
believe we do.
and I think we'll just go chronologically, I guess. I mean, just start with the original and go through them up to the present, or do you wanna do it a different way? I'm fine either way.
I mean, what I would say is that It I mean, what I would do is talk about the original story to a point and then start bringing in where the story diverges in
Cool.
the others, because I
Yeah.
think that is ultimately what will determine a person's interest. I think they all have somewhat of the same baseline, and then in some of them it goes way off and in some it doesn't, and yes,
Yeah.
yes.
No, that makes sense.
Okay.
So the original movie was released in 1974, and it was directed by Bob Clark. Do you know what else Bob Clark directed?
Yes, because I looked it up. A Christmas
Yeah,
Story.
which that totally like flies under the radar. Like I would never have known that,
Yeah.
without going to IMDb and figuring out. There were some other things that he directed too. Some other movies.
Yes. Was it Porgy's? Is
It
that
was Porky's.
yes.
Uh, the reason I know that too, just randomly by happenstance, I was scrolling through Twitter or X or whatever it's called this morning. And there was a clip from Siskel and Ebert doing a review of A Christmas Story, and they started talking about Bob Clark, and I was like, "Wait a second, Bob Clark!" And then I
It
went, "Yeah,
was that I don't know how I was reading through the trivia for the original Black Christmas today, and his I don't know why I don't whatever it was made me go click on his name, and then it said Christmas Story, and I was like, oh, which I just watched the other night, not for the first time, but
yeah."
funnily enough, I just watched that.
And now that I'm aware of that, there were a couple of directorial things here and there that I was like, you know what? Like I kind of remember that from A Christmas Story. Like most notably that scene in A Christmas Story where Ralphie's like going up to see Santa, and it's like a point of view shot where he's been put on his
Yeah.
lap and all of that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
anyway, so okay, the baseline plot for these films, plural, even though, like you said, it gets very kind of out in left field the more time you get removed from the original movie. In not terrible ways. I mean, there were some things that I did like about the other ones. Of course, we'll get to that. But the baseline is this: all these are set at a sorority house, right? Like that's
Yes.
or there that is like a central piece of it.
Mhm.
And usually there are obscene phone calls involved where some
Yes.
unknown person is calling and just I don't know, like in the original movie, it's like random like noises and words, and it
Well,
is creepy.
it's random noises and very explicit
Yeah,
language. Like,
right.
again, I was watching it at the gym and I'm like, good thing no one is around because I watch everything with the captions on.
I was about to
So
say, in your gym choices for things that you're watching, I love it. Like you're always like
I
looking at some
just
kind of horror movie.
that's what I like to watch.
Yeah,
So
me too.
that and yes, and then noises, and then in the original and in the 2006, the phone calls are really used as a way to establish this Billy, Agnes, baby Agnes. It's like name dropping
Hmm.
characters that pique your interest to kind of figure out, okay, who is this? What is going on? And then I found it very interesting, and I'm going to jump for a second, and I know
Totally jump. That's what we're
we're
gonna do.
going
We're
to
gonna
jump a
jump.
lot in the 2019 version, which I'm just going to say right now, I don't even consider a Black Christmas film. Like I
Okay.
truly, the way that they gave nods to the original, but then like very quickly diverted, like an obscene phone call begins, but then it very quickly turns into, oh, can you hear me? Like, oh yeah, hi. Like it's like a nod to it, but it's not going to do that.
Well, but they go the route of like let's do DMs, right, or
Yes,
whatever.
they
Like,
use
yeah,
social media to
yeah.
send mysterious messages. And there were a couple of other things that the 2019 version did to nod to the originals, but did it in their own way, which I really appreciated.
Yeah, and so the only thing about the 2019 movie is it's the only one of the 3 that's not rated R, at least that I remember. It has to
Yes.
be because the second one, the 2006 one, is absolutely rated R, right?
Oh, 1,000%. And
Yeah.
one of the things I was thinking about is obviously the 1974 version is rated R because PG-13 didn't exist then. My question for you is if PG-13 existed, do you think it would have been rated PG-13?
I would say no, and only because of the language mostly. Like
Okay, that makes sense.
some of the phone,
Yeah.
like you were saying, some of the phone call scenes, like that sort of stuff. And there were
Yeah.
some, even like the non-phone call scenes. Margot Kidder's character, who's kind of like this, I don't know, a little bit wild sorority, person. Like she does say some things at times that I think would kind of push it out of PG territory, probably.
Okay.
But I
Yeah,
don't.
that makes sense.
Yeah,
Because I think like bloodshed wise, right? Like violence and
sure,
bloodshed and gore, the original doesn't go too crazy. And I appreciate that. And that's what a lot of the trivia I was reading was like Bob Clark doesn't even like it's considered part of the original slasher genre, and he doesn't even consider it a slasher film. He considers
right.
it more of a psychological thriller, which I can agree with because I've seen the 2006 version, which is by far just slashing, and
Right.
that's fine with me.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the original movie and the 2019 movie are pretty bloodless generally to
Yes,
me. But
which,
the
like, the 2019 movie, I think I would have loved even more if they had just gone for the R rating. I
if
think it
it
could have
yeah,
been
if it had gone for like, you know
so
what,
good.
like we're gonna lean into the gore, we're gonna make it like you said, like a hard R type of movie, it might have actually been my favorite of the lot, maybe. But
Yeah.
so I guess before we get too much deeper, so and I haven't even asked you this yet, so but I think I know the answer. Which one is your favorite of the three? Like the one that you prefer the most?
I do prefer the 2019.
Okay.
But again, it's because I don't really feel like it goes with like the story itself diverges so much from the original story that to me it doesn't even feel like the same movie. I just
Yeah.
very much enjoyed it. Like I would watch it again. I liked that movie. I just don't know that I would call it a Black Christmas because it's not.
It's not, yeah, I mean, the only thing it has in common really is the sorority element, really.
Yes.
I mean, I don't
And
know.
like I said, it does nods. There are nods, the bags over the head and the
There's
the
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 glass
garment,
unicorn shows up at one
the,
point.
the glass unicorn, which also could I just mention I need curious question.
Yeah.
In the 2006, the girl Eve, creepy Eve who gets beheaded,
Yep.
she tells Goody Two Shoes Christian girl who was in one of the Final Destination movies tells her, "Oh, I know you're all into the Bible and stuff, so I got you this," which is a glass unicorn.
Yeah. I don't
Were
so
there
you're
unicorns in the Bible that I was not aware of? I'm
they
very
show up in
confused.
they show up in second opinions somewhere. I'm just kidding. That's a yeah, I don't know. That was a really weird
I was like,
reference.
"Oh,
Now that you're
okay."
saying that, I think I remember that bit of dialogue and just being kinda like, okay, like, and just not really processing what they were trying to.
Unless Eve is like so removed socially that she doesn't even know, which is fine. Like I can buy that. I'm not. It just
Yeah.
was such a moment where I was like, okay, that's a
Yeah.
choice.
I don't know,
That's
yeah.
a choice. So
So,
I think I know your answer, but what's your favorite?
the original,
Yeah, okay.
actually. So, and I'll tell you why. So the thing is, okay, and I told you this when when we were messaging about it. I really do think the middle movie is awful. Like, and all no, that's not to say that I wasn't entertained because there were
Yeah,
some moments for sure that I was entertained, but I'll extrapolate on that, I guess. But I think just of the three, the first one does the best job of building like mood and atmosphere. Now it is slow for sure. Like
it
there are
is
some slow
slow.
moments,
It is very
but
slow.
I
To
think
a
that
point. To
coupled
a
with like
point.
the subtleties of the social commentary that it kind of works in about abortion and things like that.
Okay,
But
so that's what I was going to ask you about because you had
yeah,
mentioned that, like, I like the social commentary. And so, because, I fell asleep when I was watching it the other day. So I
right,
really
yeah,
had to push myself through it today. And my two big questions from watching it again are is that the social commentary that you were referring to? And what do you think is the social commentary that that choice was making? And my second question is, are we supposed to assume or believe that the little girl that got killed in the park was also killed by Billy?
Yeah, I don't know. That's that latter question about the little girl being killed in the park. I guess it is a weird kind of sort of out of left field bit this incorporated in the story. I don't know if we're supposed to believe that or not. I mean, I think the whole social commentary thing to me was more about like, not being dominated by men. I mean, that was sort of the thing that I took away from the first movie. Now, obviously, that is like in your face in the 2019 movie. I mean, that is very much like
Oh,
somebody
I love the
randomly.
song they sing during that talent show.
Oh yeah, I love that. Like I
That's
thought that was
hilarious.
awesome. Like I love that
Yeah.
piece of it. But I think for its time, the way that they worked that in made it, I don't know, like it just worked to me, like in the way that it was
And
incorporated
I guess
into it.
that, like, it's hard not being alive in 1974 and
Yeah.
also having seen the 2006 version first. And I saw that, like, when I was either in high school or no, I must have been I was in college. And for me, it very much, like, represented a 2000s horror movie with a group of very, like, recognizable female actresses, like at least
Yeah.
4 or 5 of those girls I know from other like, I know them.
Yeah.
And so for me, it wa like, I don't think it's I think it's the least quality of the
Do
films.
you think the 2006 one is?
Yes, is the
Okay.
least quality of the
Yeah.
films, by far. But I would almost say the most entertaining for
It
someone who likes blood and gore. If you don't like the
I
blood and
yes.
gore, then I think you'll like the 2019 version best.
Yeah, I from a blood and gore perspective, no doubt. I mean, it's honestly the only movie of the 3 that has, I guess, blood and gore, at least to
Yeah.
amounts that are to amount to something. But I
And,
think
like, it does not shy away. Like, we are making cutout cookies out of skin,
and
people.
then, like, the close up of him taking bites of them and things like that, which is great, I think the issue to me with the 2006 one is I couldn't stop laughing at it, like, and I don't think
Yeah.
like, and I'm sure it was supposed to be, to a certain extent, kind of tongue in cheek, that sort of thing, but, like, I didn't think the editing was very good, like, the scene transitions were not g I just was like, "This is, like, legitimately not greatly made," like, it's just not a good movie, you know?
Because it was definitely one of those movies they knew they could make and make money off of, because that was exactly the type of movie that we liked in 2006.
Yes. Yeah,
So,
and
I
I would
yeah.
say it's got the least likable cast of characters of the 3, I
Yes.
think. I think I like the cast of the 2019 movie the most, personally.
I do too. They were more distinct in the 1970s, and each version tries to stick to some of the similar characters, like the drunk and all of that. So I
Yeah.
do think that the 1974 dives deeper into some of the characters and their stories. And then, yeah, the 2019, it just has a more interesting and unique cast of
If
characters.
if there's a weakness to the original movie, and I think you've mentioned this, and I've mentioned it too, like, it is a little bit slow at times, for sure, and so you fell asleep watching it, right? The first
I mean,
time
I was
you saw
also
it.
very tired, but
Yeah.
that was me coming off of my show and everything, and so that was one half
Yeah,
the movie, one half me.
and
But I would say, like, once, like, I'm trying to once, like, they find the dead girl in the park, after that, it really does stay strong as far as the pace is concerned. Like, things begin to just kind of domino and ripple
yeah,
effect. And the one so and this is why I was doing some research. So because they have those point of view shots that we get from very early on, and you
yep.
mentioned to me like, that's very Halloween. So that's why I looked it up. This is before Halloween.
This was pre-Halloween, right? You're right,
This
yeah.
was before Halloween. And the phone calls coming from inside the house
Yeah,
is
so
most known for When a Stranger Calls, which came out in 79. So this was before that too. So I
so
feel like two very popular horror tropes emerged from this movie and people just don't know.
And I feel like one of the little bits of trivia that I read said that this movie was in part inspired by like an urban legend about that. Like,
It is.
somebody
The
calling.
Babysitter Murders, yes, is based on that, and it was supposed to be called Stranger in the Home, but it
Yeah.
was right after Ted Bundy had murdered college girls, so they were like,
They're like, let's
"No,
not do that.
something
That
else."
was going to be my other thing that I thought was a little bit of a weakness. Now, if you recall, I remember we talked about this, and I said, I went back to IMDb and looked, and was like, oh, apparently I have watched this at some point, and I just didn't
Yeah.
remember. But while I was watching it early on, the whole time I kept thinking, okay, the guy's going to be like calling from inside the house, that sort of stuff. So, from a certain point of view, to me, there was a little bit of an issue with predictability, but they also weren't trying to hide the fact that he was in the attic. So I don't. I
No,
mean,
and I don't think they were at all. I think and it's hard again because I've seen the 2006, so I knew the whole time, but I do feel like it's not supposed to be a shock for the audience. I
right?
think the anticipation is when do the girls find out and watching them have to navigate that their space has been invaded this whole time. And I do think it's a bit of a social commentary on how men invade women's space and take up space and don't
Yeah,
even realize it. Yeah.
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 So, yeah, I mean, so just I guess holistically, I thought the original movie was the most well made, and I like the I guess law enforcement characters in the original movie more. Like,
That is the dad from Nightmare on Elm Street.
I thought it was. Thank you. I kept watching it, and I was like, where do I know this guy from? Like, and
Yep.
it was driving me crazy that I should have just gone to IMDb and looked up the guy's
Yep.
name, but I just never did. But
Yep.
okay, that makes sense. And I thought the kind of like goofy cop guy who he was like, look, if you screw this up, I'm gonna fire. And of course he calls and he's like, don't tell her he's in that he's in the house. Just tell her to walk out the
Yeah.
front door. And finally, the guy's like, he's in the attic, and of course she goes to check on it, which like every horror movie trope ever, like don't go to do that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But I thought they
Yeah.
did a good job too of not actually telling us who the killer was, like toward the end. I mean, I don't know how you felt about that, like because I was a little
It's
bit like,
hard because I knew because I'd seen the 2006 version. So I always knew when I watched the original. I
yeah,
do like that though. And I do agree with what I was reading that it adds to the horror of it that you don't totally know.
hmm,
I don't think, and that was something I was thinking a lot about when I was looking at the three versions. I think in 1974 it was great, to leave a lot of that unsaid. In 2006 you can't do that. In
right,
2006 audiences hated things that were not explained. So we
yeah,
even had to show you the exposition, which I'll be honest, part of me wishes that the 2006 version just cut out all the sorority girls and was the prequel and just showed us the family stuff because
yeah.
that was gruesome in and of itself.
The whole incest thing, I'm like, that was. I was like, whoa, are we really? Is it really going like this direction?
Yes.
Plus,
Also was watching that part at the gym. Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Where are
Yep.
you? That's
Yep.
funny. Plus the whole thing where I guess it's Billy has like some kind of liver disease and he's like yellow, like he's got jaundice or something. Like I
Yeah,
don't.
well, and I like that not like's not the right word, but now that like I know what jaundice is and like I don't like to, I guess I what was supposed to be in like the 80s, I think. I don't know. They made it seem very like, oh my God, keep him away. And it's like the dude has jaundice. Like
Like he can't
he's
help it. Right,
fine.
right. I mean, quick side note on that. And so when I was born, I had jaundice, so I had to be under one of those lamps for like
Yeah.
5 days, and they just like I guess it does something to like your
Owen
whatever.
almost did. Owen had
Really?
like a real, not, we never had to do anything about it, but they were like,
Yeah,
it's a little bit there, he's fine. But yeah, I
yeah.
mean, and that's where it's like you hear about that kind of, and I don't know what it I mean, you and Billy are kind of probably the same age. Like I
Probably. I mean, I was born in '82. You mean as far as like the character, like at the
yes.
time in the movie? Yeah, I guess.
Yes.
I guess. Yeah.
In
So
the 2006 version, yes.
and so in the 2006 version, it's also his daughter, but his sister. I mean,
Yes, because
it's
of
the
the
product of
incest.
the incestual thing,
Which
right?
in
Like,
the original they mention like where's baby Agnes? So like you don't know what
yeah,
that means. And then in the original they gave you an answer and they went in a very clear direction with that. And I do think in the 2006 they tried to insinuate, oh, could it be one of the is it Weird Eve? Is it this
Yeah.
person, like these people that are in the house? And then you're doing the math. And I will say I did actually forget for a little bit. I'm like, wait, who is it? And then you find Eve's head and you're like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
So
I mean, for some reason, I kept thinking the whole time I was watching the 2006 version that it could just be titled "The Scary Attic People" or
yes,
something.
yes.
I mean, and like the whole thing where they're crawling in between the walls and stuff. Like, I don't know. That just
The
didn't.
original could have been Stranger in the Home. 2006 could have been Scary Attic People. 2019 could have been Possessed Fraternity.
Yeah. So now, I guess we've talked sufficiently about the original movie. We're still kind of touching on some stuff with the
Yeah.
2006 film. What did you think about the ending where they're in the hospital and like
So
impalement by Christmas tree, the whole thing?
I love that. I do
Yeah,
love that final image, and I like how quickly the other girl just gets her head snapped because I do
yeah,
think that when you have some of these gory deaths, it's nice to break it up with just a quick,
yeah.
snap neck. And so I like that. I guess it for me felt a little like outside of the motive. Like if the motive was to, I don't know. I guess is it that we're all family now? Is this person like? I wanted a little clearer sense of why. Is it because they're in the house, or because he wants Agnes back, or because like I don't know. I don't
But
know
doesn't
why you
he? I feel like at one point he says something like "Get out of my house," or I mean, I can't
Yeah, yeah, he
remember.
definitely he or she, because you don't really know if it's Agnes making the calls or
Yeah.
Roy or who knows.
Did you? And
Um,
also, we didn't even talk about the beginning where he's in like a correctional facility and escapes,
yes.
which is very kind of Michael Myers ish. Except like obviously he's
Yeah.
not the same type of character. But I don't know. What did you think about all that?
I felt like that facility needed to be reviewed for its security measures. And I'm
Right.
sorry, if you know that this guy is a psychopath and you can't see him in his room, why do you open the door?
Right. Why
Why
go
do
in
you
there? Yeah.
would
Again,
you
just yeah, yeah. I mean, the other thing too was I thought that the dialogue was not great in the 2006 movie.
no,
Frequently, I mean, it
no.
wasn't like abysmally bad, but it just there were I just distinctly remember there were moments where I was like, that just wasn't very well written. Like the exchange with certain characters and
Yes,
things.
and it wasn't supposed to be, honestly,
Yeah.
because the audience that it was targeting in 2006, me, didn't want a well-written slasher movie. We
Well,
just
I
wanted
will say too, the one thing that threw me off is I did not expect Mary Elizabeth Winstead to die, like in the way that she died. Her
okay,
character.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, that was I didn't I expected she would be like the heroine who's kind of making it through like final girl like to the end sort of thing, but that didn't
mhm.
happen. So I appreciate that. Like that was not
Yes, and I
expected.
do think that that is one thing that both the original and the 2006 did is they introduced enough characters that you weren't quite sure who was gonna be the final girl.
Hmm.
Whereas the
Yeah.
2019, I think it's very clear right away who you're
It's funny looking at the scores on IMDb because the 2019 one has like an abysmally bad rating, which I'm surprised by. Like it's like a 3.4 out of 10, whereas the original is like a 7 point something. Which like again, I do think the original is overall the better movie, but I did not think the 2019 movie was that bad
I
personally.
didn't either, and I guess I wonder the people leaving those reviews, did they leave it a review as a franchise reboot, or did they leave it a review as its own entity?
Hmm.
Because I think as a franchise reboot, I mean, it isn't. Like, it just isn't,
Yeah.
in my
Right.
opinion.
Right.
But as far as like its own movie, and we talked a little bit about this, like the possession, the fraternity boys being possessed by the goo of the founder to and here's and I so I really did enjoy this movie.
Yeah.
My criticism is you didn't need to go supernatural.
Mm.
Like I felt like there was enough motivation with the stuff going on with Carrie L's character. Love him, love his
Is that how you
journey.
pronounce it? Is that, I
I have
never knew
no
that.
idea.
Yeah,
Nobody
I don't know.
knows.
Yeah, I didn't know.
Nobody
Yeah.
knows how to say
Okay.
his name.
Yeah.
Um and so like the petition against him and the guy that was being accused of rape, like I felt like they had enough motive to just want to kill them without, and I would believe that if you just had fraternity pledges and you said, hey, look, your hazing is to go kill that girl, I would believe they would do that.
Right.
I don't need them to be possessed. I'm behind you if you just tell me that a fraternity guy was pressured into killing somebody. Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
that seems realistic.
Yeah,
Awesome.
the supernatural turn, the thing is I didn't hate it, but I also it did feel a little bit disjointed toward the end because of that.
And that's where, and they dropped a lot of hints very early on in the movie about dark arts and stuff. So I was like, okay, that's where we're going, and that's fine. But I do wonder if it had been rated R, could they have done more that would have given that supernatural element more of a meaning? I feel there's only so much you can do in a PG-13 setting. And so when you try to add on a layer, you kind of, it's too much. And then you don't get to fully explore either.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I mean the whole idea of like it's I guess it's the bust is like the central artifact through
Yes.
which this substance is causing people to be possessed by the I guess the spirit of the founder of this college or something like that.
And even if they had kept with that and just had the bust sort of possess, in a way, these guys to make their pledges do this, I would have been fine with that. But the
Yeah.
goo was unnecessary.
It was almost like the blood of
Um,
Kali from Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, where you like drink it and become possessed and evil or whatever.
oh, okay,
But
yeah. And and I personally feel bad for people that kill people when they're possessed.
right, because
Like,
they're not knowing
they
they're
don't
doing it.
know. They don't know
Yeah.
they're doing it. And so I felt like they killed a whole bunch of those guys, good on them. And then they did kill everybody, which I appreciate again, good on
Right. Right.
them.
Yeah.
But that's where I'm like, I don't want to have to feel any sympathy for these guys. Just make them, macho jerks
Just
who,
misogynistic.
yes, who
I
want
mean,
to kill
like
women.
yeah, I mean, and I don't know if it was the whole idea was that like the guy that had a crush on the central character, like they needed a way to make him temporarily bad or something. Like
Well, I think they were trying to eliminate him from the conflict, like the final fight, and
yeah,
you could have done it so many other ways. So many other
right.
ways. It-
Yeah, yeah, the 2019 movie I thought was much better than I anticipated it being. Like, but again,
Like,
I
I would
totally agree.
recommend that. Like, I do think that audiences today would really enjoy that movie, minus a couple of, like, even when the boyfriend, like, there's that ringing that they end up hearing that's like calling out their true alpha.
Yeah,
Like, that was not necessary. I can buy that her boyfriend just got frustrated by all the man bashing. Like, that
right.
would be frustrating. It's okay to just make that part of the story. And then I knew they were all going to come back and fight
Yeah,
because girl power.
right. Yeah, I mean, it was entertaining. It was in times kind of comedic, but yeah, I mean, I thought it was a totally fine entry. But I agree that with what you're saying in terms of like it doesn't really feel like a Black Christmas movie. It just feels kind of
No.
like I think we had said or I had suggested like the Skulls meets whatever. I mean
Yes.
something
Yes.
else. I don't know, but
And it,
yeah,
it is. They had a cat named Claudette. In the
right.
original, it was Claude.
Okay, that's right. That's right. And this one did not have the house mother, right? I think that was like one other thing
Correct.
that was
And
not there.
they did not have a house mother because I don't think those exist. And
Yeah, I was like,
so,
I was about to say, like, I don't know enough about like Greek life to know if that's still a thing. I would assume not, but I don't know.
yeah, and I just like want to say I don't know what Greek life is like at other institutions, but all of the Greek houses at the school I went to were like trashy, run down, gross. How like they're living in these castle mansions, and I'm like, is that what it's like in some places? I don't know.
Well, I know. So there's a sorority row at ECU that's right across from campus, and they weren't castles, but they were nice, big old houses. Like I don't. not, but that's not all of them. Like I think there were some further
Yeah,
away from campus that weren't like that. But I think you're correct, unless you're like at Princeton or Harvard, maybe. Some of these like legacy schools that have had the wealth to acquire these
yeah,
types of properties. Like I would think most colleges don't have basically 6,000 square foot places. You know what I mean? Like I don't. I agree. Like I don't think that that's usually the case for
yeah.
most
So,
places. But yeah,
and in each film, their houses were very large. And
yeah,
especially in the 2006, where we're supposed to believe that Billy and his drunken, incestuous mother and his murdering stepfather, like just the three of them plus baby Agnes, all lived in this huge house.
You know, the more we're talking about that 2006 movie, it kind of reminds me of the first Rob Zombie Halloween, like the whole like
Yes, yes,
situation with the
it
mom, the
is.
trashiness, like
Very, yes, very Rob
yeah,
Zombie Halloween. I'm going to give you the prequel that they didn't, and I'm going to very much make it my own.
right,
Yes,
right,
yes.
yeah. So I guess the question is, are there any of these three movies that you wouldn't recommend, or would you recommend that that somebody watch all of them at varying intervals?
I do think a person should watch all of them.
Yeah.
I don't feel the need to ever watch the original again
The
because
funny
it's
thing
so
is,
slow, and that's just not like if I'm going to watch a slow movie, it's got to have more in it for me than that.
I think my takeaway is I don't feel the need to watch any of these ever again. Like I wouldn't really put them like in my rotation for Christmas horror stuff, but so my opinion is the 2006 is like very bad. Like unless you just really want gore, like I don't really think there's in my opinion a reason to watch the 2006 version. The 1974, some people see it as like a Christmas classic. I don't agree with that necessarily. Like I think it's fine.
Yeah.
The 2019 one is okay too, but I wouldn't say that anybody has to watch any of these.
I
Yeah,
feel
I
like
don't
the
know.
2019 version, I would definitely watch again with like a bunch of my girlfriends and a bottle of wine. I
Yeah,
feel like we would have a real nice time. So if you're doing like a girls' night, and girls, it means whatever. If you identify as whatever, it can be whatever.
right.
Girls' night, bottle of wine, watch the 2019. I have watched the 2006. I own the 2006.
I did not. I was unaware of that development. Now I know.
I because 2006 Kim, that was right up my alley. So
Yeah.
I had in my DVD case over here, I have the 2006
Well,
DVD,
did
and
it?
I've
I
watched
mean,
it more than
having
once.
was there a big gap between you having seen it just like in the past day or two versus when you saw it before?
It's
Kim?
maybe been a year or two. Like
Okay.
I typically watch it every couple of years.
Okay.
If I need something on around Christmas time, it is
Yeah.
in my rotation if I need something to watch.
Okay. Yeah.
So, and I will probably watch it again.
Yeah.
Not this year, but like
Right.
next year.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I think there are redeeming things about all of them to varying extents. I think with the 2006 one, if you're a gorehound, like there's plenty to love about it because I mean,
Yes.
there's a lot of eyeball plucking, which is like that's the thing that they
And
really
eating.
yeah, and eat like cannibalism kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And I mean, I'm sure I don't know what the intervals are here, but I'm sure at some point we'll get another Black Christmas remake. I don't know, but I will say this, and I think we were texting about this a little bit too. I think if you're leaning into like campy sorority themed horror, go watch Slaughterhouse. Like I had more fun watching that than I did any of these. But it's not
If
the same
that's
thing.
the goal, yeah, if that's what you want, then absolutely. Because 2006 Black Christmas isn't campy. It's just,
It's kind of schlocky, right? Like
yeah,
I don't know, like
yeah.
schlock horror sort of.
Because campy to me is self aware. Like, you know what you're doing is
Yeah.
ridiculous. And I don't think in 2006 they went full camp.
No.
They,
I think that they
yeah.
seem to be taking it more seriously than I would have anticipated.
Yes. But I again in 2006 that was okay. Like
Yeah.
that's what we wanted. I do if they had just made the 1974 and then tried to do a reboot today, I think it would look more like the 2019
Yeah.
and no parts of the I don't think the 2006 wouldn't even be anywhere close to what
If
they would
the thing
make today.
is, I know we just mentioned this. If the 2019 movie actually had like substantial gore, I would be like, go watch that movie. Like,
Yes.
and it's not bad in and of itself. It just felt kind of
It's like one
bloodless.
of those movies where I really wish I had been on staff to be like, you have something really strong here, minus these few things. Take these out. There, like I could have given them really helpful feedback on this screenplay.
You need to write because
'Cause
I think Netflix made this movie, right? I mean, I
they
think
probably did. I don't know. Netflix, if you're out there, I've got stuff. Like, you just give me a call.
if Netflix is not currently a subscriber to this channel, they will be soon, I'm sure. So
I don't know
then
why they're
they'll see this and have your notes. Yeah.
not. I don't know why
Um,
they're not. Yeah, call me. I'll give you some feedback and then share what I've got.
well, so I think that this is going to be our last Christmas theme thing that
Yes,
we do,
because
just given
Christmas is in like 2, 3 days. I don't
yeah,
even
it's
know.
coming up soon. So I don't know what is next on our docket. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess Valentine's Day would be the next holiday, right? So I'm sure
I
there's
feel like we've run out of we
what
did Bloody Valentine and Valentine
that's
last
right.
year.
What is and I have not seen Happy Death Day. Is that like what
I've not seen that either.
maybe that could be like an intermediate, not really holiday type of horror movie to watch. Because I feel like were there two of those maybe? I don't know.
I think there were. I
Yeah.
think there were two.
And I've
Yeah,
heard interesting things about them, so maybe they're
I
worth
feel like
watching.
they're movies I would like. They seem funny and scary and gory,
Yeah.
and so yeah, I could be
I
about that.
am tonight I'm gonna watch Rebel Moon. Have you heard about that one?
I have heard. Oh, my Amazon package is here. I have heard of Rebel Moon, but I will probably never see it.
It has gotten thrashed by critics, but I've been interested to see it, so I'm just gonna watch it, and I'll probably do like a solo review of that one. But I'm gonna be curious to see if it's actually
Okay.
because I'm kind of like neutral on Zack Snyder. Like I don't really care one way or another. Like some people are like adamant Zack Snyder fans as like a director, and I'm just like I don't. It's a sci-fi movie, so I want to watch it, but like I we'll see if it's any good actually or not.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know what I'm gonna. We watched Lord of the Rings 2
The Two
last night.
Towers,
Yes, the Two
yeah.
Towers. Yes,
All have you seen? I assume you've seen all
I've
those.
seen them all. Matt has not, so that's
Oh,
why
did
we're
he
going.
like it?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. I like all of those. I think they're
Yeah, I think so. They're long.
however, I've only seen all of the first Hobbit. I have not watched the last 2 Hobbits
Oh, I didn't
movies.
even know there was more than one. I've never seen the Hobbit movies.
Yeah, those were also Peter Jackson. They're also super long. Yeah, that's why I just haven't the first one
Yeah,
was fine, but I
nobody's
think
got
when the
time.
first one came out, I was kind of, like, over Lord of the Rings stuff at that moment. I was just sorta like, "Eh," you
Yeah.
know? But I watched it, and I'm gonna eventually watch the next 2 because I do wanna see how it concludes. Because I like Peter Jackson, like, he's a good director and everything,
Yeah.
but,
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah.
okay. Well, I'm gonna edit this. It'll be our Christmas gift to the internet masses.
You're welcome, internet and
Yeah.
Netflix.
Um, but Kim, we'll be back soon. Any parting words about Black Christmas is plural? Any of those?
Uh, no, just,
Okay.
be careful what you put in your eggnog.
Right. Yeah. And check your attic, apparently.
Yeah, yeah,
And
check your attic and
if you get a glass unicorn, then that's not a great omen. So,
yeah,
just be
yeah,
aware. Yeah.
stay away from that.
Cool. Okay. We'll be back soon.